Up by Anda tonight. Your next comedian probably will too. Yeah, it's gonna get weird in here. It already did. Yeah, I'll drink with you, Andy, because I think you can outdrink me. Guys, your next performer coming to the stage has moved to Boston sort of recently. He's making a name for himself out there. He used to do a show in New Brunswick called Misfit Toys. And he's been on a bunch of my shows. He's a good buddy of mine. He's got a blazer on looking sharp. Give it up for Shawn Barron, guys. Shawn Barron, coming to the stage.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. So it's good to be back in New Jersey, is something I thought I would never say. But I kind of like a little bit coming back here. For example, food's much better than where I live in Boston. For example, bagels really suck in Boston if you haven't been there. Basically, you bite into one and you're just like, wow, no Jew had any part in the making of this. What I think it's weird though in like Boston is like, you know, here in New Jersey, we're all different groups, but we kind of like get along without being pretentious about it. But like Boston is SJW town, like ludicrously. I was walking near this construction site, walking past the construction site right near my apartment the other night, and I see a sign that has been altered to say working men ahead, to say working, W, feminist symbol, MEN, plus men ahead. And it just got me wondering, like, are there social justice warriors in Boston who just walk around with paints and pencils hoping to find signs that upset them? Or is there like a secret SJW app that when you see a social injustice you can just hit? Alright, on 5th Street, right now, there's a sign that only uses 2 genders to describe people. SJW app in action. The other thing that gets me is that, like, I've met a lot more white liberals in Boston who have a Black Lives Matter t-shirt than an actual black person who matters in their lives. But it's been pretty good since I got up there. Started dating this really nice girl. It's really cool. Before I was dating her, I was actually in an open relationship, an extremely open relationship. I was actually single. But I like being in a relationship because I've never really enjoyed dating. Because to me, dating is just a really weird form of gambling that occasionally ends in an orgasm. But it gets really cool. We were going, me and my girlfriend, about 2 weeks, we went to this town, Gloucester, which is in the coast of Massachusetts, where I live. And what's really cool is while we were there, we went whale watching, or as the Japanese call it, grocery shopping. It's pretty cool. I'm glad to be with her. It was glad I had to. This relationship has like really helped me a lot in my personal life get over some stuff because my father has actually been having a bunch of problems like medically recently, so I had to come down. My dad had a very small stroke and he's okay now, but there's all these problems he's had to deal with. For example, because it was a stroke related to stress, they started prescribing him Xanax in order to calm down. But because of the Xanax, it can thin your blood out. So to increase your blood flow, they have to prescribe you Viagra. Which is getting really bad for my dad because it means at all times now he is both extremely relaxed and extremely frustrated. But what's even sucks more than all the drugs they have my father on is because of his condition, his doctor has required him to start eating kale. And just nobody should have to go through that. Nobody should have to experience their loved ones forced to eat kale. I do not like kale. Kale to me, if a vegetable was to have the flavor of disappointment, it would taste something like kale. If hippies, instead of the federal government, had invented waterboarding, it would taste like kale. Kale is the vegetable that spinach used to beat the shit out of in high school. But what's tough whenever I'm talking to my dad is that he's always asking me, you know, about money. He's always concerned because I'm not the best spender with money, and he always comes up to me and he goes, Shawn, whenever he calls me, are you saving any money? Shawn, are you saving any money? Shawn, are you saving any money? And I finally have to go, look, Dad, I'm willing to accept that animals have a soul, but money's an inanimate object and cannot receive religious salvation. The other thing is that he's always trying, you know, because he's mad that I'm not saving, so he's always coming up to me. He's like, like, Shawn, if you don't save any money, how are you going to be able to get married, have a fancy car, and have a big house? I'm like, so you want me to work hard just to get the things that you've been telling me for the last 20 years made your life miserable? That's pretty cool, like with money. So a friend of mine, Dave, he actually walked up to me the other day and he's like, Shawn, you know, I know you're not good with money, but I'm starting to save up. And I tell you, once I save up enough money, I'm going to spend the rest of my life living abroad. And I thought, gee, that's a really funny way to describe being transgender. But I like to study, whenever I can, I like to try to relax. So one of the things I like to do is study other languages. One of the first languages that I was able to study and learn very well was the Spanish language. I could speak it fluently. Now, you learn a lot of interesting things whenever you study a foreign language. Probably the first one I learned about Spanish is that Latin people are really fucking surprised to see someone who looks like me speaking Spanish. The other thing is you get to like learn different phrases. I was in Madrid for a while, so I learned some of the profanity unintentionally. For example, when I first got to Madrid, I didn't know any of the words, didn't know much of the language, so I wanted to order a beer, and they like to have these little beers they call cañas. So I went up to a bartender, not knowing this word properly, and said, "Hola, me gustaría 3 coños, por favor." For those of you who don't speak Spanish, I went up to a bartender, full of confidence, and said, "Hello, I'd like 3 pussies, please." The other cool thing is that in Spanish, you get lots of idioms, you know, like we have in English. Now, for English, probably the ones that are most famous for children is, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, or spare the rod and spoil the face. In Spain, they say, cría cuervos y te sacarán los ojos. Raise ravens and they will rip out your eyes. Which teaches the important lesson, don't fuck with Spanish kids. Probably one of the other cool things is I started learning a little bit of Chinese recently. And what's really cool is they have profanity that's very similar to ours, but they do much cooler word games. For example, the Chinese have the phrase "sao ni ma," which can literally mean fuck your mother. However, it can also mean mud grass horse. And Chinese people really like to take advantage of that fact. For example, Ai Weiwei went to jail because he wrote a thing that said the mud grass horse lives on the Central Plain, which can also translate to go fuck your mother, Communist Party of China. One of the other languages that I've been learning a little bit of was, I learned a little bit of Arabic, not so much for religious reasons. I just like to be able to get off the plane before everybody else. So, but with religion, you know, I'm not that much of a religious man. I'm actually an atheist, but I am very good friends with the priest for insurance. But when you start, you start studying religion, you start asking questions. For example, I've always wondered, if the number worldwide of Jews and Catholics were flipped, do you think that right now, all around the world, there'd be millions of angry Protestants yelling that Italy has no right to exist? So, let me see. That's probably a cool one. So, one of the things that also is, I started reading a little bit more, reading a little Bible, reading a little bit about Jesus, and I guess I'll leave you with this, that I came to realize that Jesus Christ is probably the perfect religious figure for the millennial generation. And here's why. Because after all of his wanderings and discoveries and amazing insights, he still ended up back at home living with Dad. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your